about everyone? And yes, I'm originally from New Orleans. Booty is my home now, but that's what the beads are. I haven't gone astray in any way. So again, at this time, I would like to call the City of Bowie regular City Council meeting of Tuesday, February 21st, 2023 to order. It is now 8:01 p.m. I would ask that everyone would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, I will ask that you would confirm that we have a quorum this evening.
Yes, Mayor, you have all 5 council members in attendance this evening.
I would like to take a brief moment before we get started and just recognize President James Earl Jimmy Carter, Jr., the 39th President of the United States. You know, President Carter did a lot of things in his lifetime, and as you know, he is in hospice care now. You know, he is a true humanitarian. He established the Carter Center to promote and expand human rights, which earned him a Nobel Peace Prize in 2002. He continued to be actively involved in many efforts until his health began to fail. Many of us may know he is an accomplished author and a key figure in the nonprofit organization Habitat for Humanity. We send our prayers to President Carter and to his family. Having said that, at this point, are there any agenda additions, deletions, or amendments?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to remove one item from the agenda on new business. I would like to remove discussion request for approval for retirement celebration in honor of Judge Sheila Adams.
Okay.
You sure?
Yes.
Are we going to take this up at a later date?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right.
So can you second?
Second, I'll second that.
No.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing, Councilman? Hearing none, all in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same favor. Abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
There's a discussion item.
Okay.
So sorry to interrupt, but as a point of order,
Did you realize
Stop.
Channel 5 News is here about that? They're here tonight.
Excuse me?
I said, did you realize the news station is here about that amendment that you put off for a later date?
I'm sorry, ma'am. As we said, comments will be at the proper time. If you have any comments, please, we would have needed you to sign up prior to. Okay, and we will get to that point where we have citizen participation.
but so sorry, as a quick point of order, if we usually put something off to another date, we usually have to tell the clerk what that date is when we put it off, unless we're just canceling the discussion entirely.
Correct. I have proposed to cancel discussion entirely. That means that we're not moving forward with it.
Was that understood, though?
Let's, I second that. I'll second that.
As long as they understand it's being canceled.
And I will need you,
This,
I will need you, as I need to abstain from anything.
yes, we do know that. We do know that, Mr. Mayor.
Do we understand the clarification? Does everybody understand? Michael, do you feel like you understand? Does everybody understand?
And I want to abstain.
Okay, you're abstaining. Do you understand?
I just want to make sure it wasn't being put off. It sounded like there was a disagreement about whether the discussion was being put off or just not happening.
No, the discussion's not happening.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay, at this time, are there any other additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move forward with citizen participation. If I could get the list.
Yes, Mayor, we've received 9 written comments which will be attached to the record, and we have 9 people signed up to speak.
I could not quite understand what you said.
She says she has 9 people set up.
Okay. Thank you. The first person is Gary Allen.
Mayor Allen, former Mayor Gary Allen.
Okay, we'll go to Miss Millie Hall.
Hello, Ms. Hall.
Hello, good evening, council.
Good evening.
I don't have anything written down, but I just recently heard that we have a 24/7 tobacco shop open in Pointer Ridge. And I was just here this evening. I know the council here have no control, but we're here to ask you to please advocate for the community to the county council about closing that. Actually, in that same shopping center, there's a kids zone. So I just don't understand why you would put a tobacco 24 hours in that shop. And that's actually all I have to say. But we really have to protect Bowie. It's a lot going on right now, so we're trying to stay safe. So please, if you could, just advocate for the people to the county council, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall.
Next, we have Miss Patrice Murray.
Not in our neighborhood. We ask for grocery stores. You give us what we already have, giant. We ask for upscale retail. First, you give us a dollar store. I couldn't imagine it get worse. It did. A ghetto-esque tobacco store. And to add insult to injury, you allowed it to open 24/7, 7 days a week. This is not acceptable, not in our neighborhood. Good evening, Mayor Adams and City Council. We come before you again concerning our neighborhood, our city, our very lives. I'd like to say that we didn't move into Bowie on purpose, but tonight I believe I can speak for everyone within the city limits and beyond. As residents in as far away as Queen Anne community have expressed their dismay by saying that this is unwanted and unacceptable. It's a blight in our community. We all moved to Bowie because of the quality of life we were assured we would have. We would have communities where our children could walk to school and play freely within its borders, where we would have choices to shop for food. Let me not only dwell on the issue of this deplorable addition to our community, without mention of what is being removed at the same time. Our very own Pointer Ridge Elementary School. Is the tobacco store an even exchange for a school? I assume Prince George's County, under whom the authority of each of these lies, has signed off. However, as paid representatives for the city of Bowie, your constituents expect your due diligence in ensuring any additions to or deletions from our community are things that benefit the residents of the city of Bowie. Tonight is not even about the 3 gas stations that will be joining our city limits, nor the removal of a dine-in restaurant while adding yet another fast food chicken joint. No, tonight is about a tobacco shop, not a convenience store in our community. It's about giving up a neighborhood school for a 24-hour hangout. I am well aware that the city does not have its own zoning laws authority, but what we do have are council members who are responsible to maintain our community as suitable, habitable, and comfortable for all of its residents. My question to each of you is this: were you aware that a tobacco store was proposed for Pointer Ridge Shopping Center? I find it hard to believe that none of you were aware it was coming. If the city itself is not notified of development within its borders, do you not find it your responsibility to know everything that goes on within its limits? The county's redistricting commission proposed last year to move Collington Station out of Councilmanic District 4. And not one of our representatives, local nor county, reached out to the commission expressing concern that part of your tax-paying residents were slated to be moved out of your district. Thank goodness I and other Collington Station residents spoke out in time. And now it has taken the community of your enraged constituents to bring this tobacco shop issue to light. As a tax-paying, voting Bowie resident, I ask you to do the following. Pass an emergency ordinance disallowing any 24/7 tobacco shops. Inventory the existing vacant Bowie retail spaces and forbid this type of use. Legally inquire into the 1, enabling statutory law for this type of retail, and 2, request the Prince George's County delegation to pass emergency disabling legislation. Trace the systemic state and county process used to fast-track this type of retail and provide your constituents with a report on the same. Legally challenge Prince George's County CB 9/2023, which is an attempt to control these types of establishments, not eradicate them from residential neighborhoods. Finally, I am asking you to do everything you can to eliminate this toxic venue from our neighborhood and encourage county leadership to allow our community school to remain open. Hear your constituents, not in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have Terry Jarryd. And if I couldn't quite read that, please bear with me.
I did too 40 years ago. Good evening, Bowie City Council, Bowie neighbors. My name is Mrs. Terry Jarryd, and I come here tonight in peaceful protest to let you know the tobacco store has to go. Opening a 24-hour, 7 days a week tobacco shop in the Bowie Pointer Ridge Shopping Center and closing of the Bowie Pointer Ridge Elementary School is unacceptable. Our elected officials at every level have the responsibility and the duty to regulate and legislate laws and rules that protect and promote the well-being of their constituency, their voters, and their families. And we want our elected officials to do just that. We want to let you know the tobacco store has to go. Today, we need your help to disable the systemic permissiveness which allow the opening of this unsavory retail venue. This legislation is being used to deface our residential community and endanger the safety of all who come to shop at Pointer Ridge, including the children who go to Sky Zone and the many senior citizens who live in the vicinity and currently walk to the shopping center to do what little shopping remains. The 24-hour tobacco shop should not have been permitted to open in Bowie. This is a 21 retail space residential mall anchored by Sky Zone and Subway and L-shaped with 3 more family-type establishments. We believe none are open 24/7. You and our Prince George's County elected officials should have known better than to affront our dignity in this manner. As a Bowie resident, I am appalled at the future being planned for our city. I know Bowie has grown much since we moved here almost 28 years ago. What will our city look like 28 years from now? No, 5 or 10 years from now, if we implement policies that close neighborhood schools and open up tobacco shops. What mores will our young people extract from this type of adult behavior? In January 23, the FDA launched a campaign to fight cigarette smoking amongst our youth. The scientific studies show that teen smoking is very dangerous yet preventable. And according to NIH, cigarette smoking is the leading preventable cause of disease, disability, and death in the United States. Tobacco products cause many cancers, for example, lung, mouth, liver, just to name a few. You are entrusted with the authority and the duty to protect human life and promote good health and safe communities. For the record, let me ask you, are these tobacco shops being set up as convenience storefronts under the North American Industry Classification Code 45991 to later sell drugs such as marijuana? No economic tax base within this industry is worth the health and safety of our families, especially our children. Is this the community vision being planned by our elected officials for the largest city in Prince George's and the second largest in Maryland? If so, you will be challenged. Why? Because it is our duty to challenge you. We want to uplift our community so that the minds and health of the individuals in it can be successful and reach their potential. This kind of excellence has done and will continue to do many great things for humankind. In conclusion, we ask you to join us in stopping predatory strategies that intentionally compromise the health and well-being of our community. We ask you to do, as Ms. Patrice has said, those things that you can do and report back to the community. And we look forward to working with you in this manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rhonda Billingston.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm also here in peaceful protest against the tobacco convenience store in Pointer Ridge. I've lived here for about 20 years, and I've seen the steady decline of Pointer Ridge Shopping Center. My concern is always the kids in the community. We have an elementary school that is slated for closing within the next year or so. We also have some additional permits that are being approved in the community that were not bought in front of the community in the Pointer Ridge community, such as the storage facility that's slated to go through the permit process on 301 North and South in the Pointer Ridge area. My concern also is the fact that we already have a tobacco convenience store, 24 Mart, in Bowie Town Center. CB 103-2022 says, and this is along the books in Prince George's County, that tobacco retailers are not allowed within a 5-mile radius. My question to the council is, what happened? How did the permit go through to allow this type of business to open in our community? Some of the council members have said, and I've heard them say on record, that they're not responsible, or they cannot control the type of businesses that come in the community. My thing is, you have to be an advocate for your constituents. And if you are an advocate and you're representing your constituents, a letter should have been sent to the permits administration or the county council to inform them that we did not want this business in our community. In addition to that, the communications of other businesses, we're not notified of the other businesses that are also being slated for the permit process in our community. What happened to the communication? We received very little communication in Pointer Ridge. Actually, we're a part of the city that's left behind, that hasn't been notified of many of the things that are happening within the community. I come to you today to ask you to please revoke this permit. Thank you.
Maureen Owenwans.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here as a representative from Samuel Ogle Middle School. Samuel Ogle Middle School is proud to share our students' environmental awareness with the Bowie community. We appreciate the work that Ms. Lori Cunningham has done on our behalf and the recognition by the Bowie City Council. As one of Bowie's green schools, we are looking working to live as environmental stewards, and we are honored to share our environmental awareness arts integration in an effort to raise consciousness in the community at large. When you step outside and go to the left, you'll see that some of our students' artwork is displayed. I would like those students to stand now while I say your name. And I'll say what I always say. I apologize if I get your name wrong. I really do. All right. So Tyler Guzman Sandoval, Emily Reyes, Jackson Childs, Soraya Etienne, Grady's Campos, Taylor Guy, Marlon Bendu, Reggie Barnett, Parker Jackson, Sanaya Clark, Amy Royale, Anila Carroll, Janice Issa Maria, Samto Undamba, Michaela, I know I'm going to get this wrong, and she told me how to say it, Emanini, Uriel Lopez Madero, and Michelle Onukawusu. If I could have a round of applause for these wonderful students.
Thank you so much. I will now go back to Connie Carter.
Hello, Madam Carter.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
It's been a while since I've been here.
Just a little bit.
Are you ready?
We are ready.
I got my notes. I am here because I have nothing else to do. No, I'm only kidding.
So you're a very busy woman.
Yeah, well, you know, I only come out of from under the rock when I feel that there's something important to be said. And I think tonight is something very important, in my opinion. My opinion. Nobody else's. I'm only saying mine.
Okay.
We're going to talk about somebody that I know, and I think everybody else knows here, and that is Dennis Brady. Dennis. Is he here tonight? No? Okay. What can I say about Dennis? We all know Dennis Brady. Dennis Brady has served 10 terms on the Bowie City Council beginning in April 1994. So everybody in Bowie should know him. Now, that is what many people know about Dennis, and that's all they know. But I know a lot more about Dennis. Some I'll share with you, and some I'm not going to share.
Okay.
He was brought into this world on March 5th, 1954. I'm sorry, Dennis, I had to say that. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Dennis, happy birthday to you. I told you I would sing. He is married to a very tolerant wife named Kathy. Tolerant, very tolerant. She puts up with a lot. He has two wonderful kids, Kismet and Webster. They're the four-legged, furry kind.
Okay.
Big. English sheepdogs. Prior to serving 10 terms on the Bowie City Council, he served 2 years on the Bowie Advisory Planning Board, where he saw a period of strong growth in the city. He worked to create the Diversity Committee. He was key in the creation of the dog park, the temporary holding room for stray pets. Yay. The city's, and I do that because I love animals. The city's Art in Public Places program, the skateboard park, the Church Road Park. And he will tell you that he is proudest of the South Bowie Library, which he guided a group of citizens representing various homeowner and civic associations through the process of lobbying the Board of Library Trustees and the city's 2 county council representatives. And let's not forget the planning for the senior center and the gymnasium. Dennis is one of the most caring people I know. He loves Bowie and he loves his family, which definitely includes Kismet and Webster. By the way, one of his other dogs he had is featured in one of the major calendars. So he is really Anyway, another story. The dog park deserves to be named after Dennis Brady. I wholeheartedly approve this. I hope everybody approves it. And by the way, I don't know if the TV is there, if you can get it. Here's a picture of Dennis Brady with his tolerant wife and Kismet, and I think that's Webster, because they do sheepdogs, and I can't remember when this was taken. This is, okay. And one last one where Kismet is laying comfortably on the chair, hanging off the end of the chair. You can't see that one very well. But in all seriousness, the dog park, and he has done so much for this city, especially with the animals and the dog park, and I hope that it is named in honor of him. Thank you very much. It was nice seeing everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Owens?
I don't know, since you all tabled it, it was for the new business.
We've taken it off completely.
Taking it off.
Completely.
Thank you.
It's not tabled, it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone?
Gone, yeah.
Okay, we will now go to Lisa Babin and Timothy Holmes.
Good evening, Mayor Adams and City Council members and community. I'm Lisa Babin. We're here today as members of the Covington community. We are a part of the there are 5 subdivisions, 5 communities within Covington. And we're here because on December 14th, there was a meeting held, which most of us were not aware of, that the Hogan companies, which purchased they purchased the property in 1996. 96, they purchased the property on Elder Oaks Boulevard at Excalibur. They had a meeting, and they are planning to put a they're planning to put a storage facility in our community. Well, our community is vehemently opposed to it, and I spoke with Mr. Gibbs in reference to it. Our community, we have over 1,000 students in our community. My question is, why would a commercial developer be allowed to purchase property in a residential community when there usually is a 5-year plan, and that's designed for the subdivision, which consists of townhouses, condominiums, and single-family dwellings, and yet he's able to purchase the property at the end of the community and deem it commercial, and then we have to be stuck with it. We don't want to be stuck with him deciding that he wants to put any type of a property in our community. We believe it's going to adversely impact our property values. It's going to impose traffic in our community that we will not tolerate, and it is going to impact the safety of our students, and we're not going to tolerate that either. And we invite them for discussion, but this discussion can only be them deciding that they're going to do something that's residential in our community, but we will not have them putting anything on that street other than something that is residential, and we need your support for that.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, good evening, Council. I support my neighbor. I'm also a homeowner in that community. There are 5 homeowners associations in that community. All of the homeowners associations are in disagreement with that type of structure, the storage facility, because as Lisa said, excuse me, it will increase the traffic. We're worried about what it's going to do to other congestion and also to property values. I don't think we had proper notice to either express our concern about that type of facility in that community. So we're here, we're asking for your help, Mr. Mayor, and also our council member to come meet with us at some of our homeowner association meetings so we can discuss our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. I will go back up. I see it's here. Gary Allen?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. As you know, like Connie, it's been a number of years since I've appeared before you, and this evening I'm not here to talk about the environment, which will be a slightly different topic, as you know. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to participate this evening, and I want to be among the first, as you can see, it's coming, to welcome those that you're about to have for the new appointments, and they actually fill out the body to make the decisions for our community in the year ahead. But this evening I'm here after an apology for being late, Mr. Mayor, because it is Shrove Tuesday, and like many others, I had some other appointments at another institution this evening where I was a very active member. But I'm here to talk about the same topic that Connie talked about. I'm here to talk about an item that appears on your agenda. I think it's one of the last items on your agenda this evening. And you're going to initiate a discussion about whether or not to name the dog park after Dennis Brady. Dennis Brady is a long-serving member of this body. I had the pleasure of welcoming him to the council when I, too, sat in the very seat that you occupy this evening. He has served this community honorably, not merely for 10 terms, but for well over 20 years. That kind of service and that kind of recognition is beyond the purview of many people. They don't want to stick to it. Their ambition seeks to make them want to seek other offices, as you've particularly graduated a couple of your members, which created these vacancies to other bodies this evening. But recognizing the commitment that Dennis has had to this community since he's moved here in the 1980s, since he's been a part of this body for over 20 years, recognizing that commitment and the leadership he's brought, I think it's time to recognize that kind of commitment, particularly in an area that is so uniquely associated with his leadership on this council, and that is a response to those pet owners in our community. Having walked the streets and campaigned myself a number of times, I can't tell you how many times I knocked on the door, only to be greeted by a barking resident instead of a voice. So like many of you, you know that dog use and dogs are widely spread throughout our entire community. Recognizing that, we set up a special place where people can take and exercise those pets and get to know their neighbors in a way that otherwise wouldn't be possible. Dennis has led that effort. Dennis brought it to your attention. Dennis helped create the majority that led to its creation. Dennis continues to support that effort here in our community, and as Connie pointed out, he's still the parents to a couple dogs that are now participating and using that very facility. Mr. Mayor, as you look at it, one of the telling characteristics that frequently come up in a discussion like this is, oh my God, he's not dead. And that's a crazy kind of thing, because usually we only recognize people after they've passed away. But you yourselves have set a new precedent in that area, because I was one of the ones that testified in support of the naming of the road that runs right in front of City Hall after the last mayor, who I also served with, and for over 20 years sat where you did, Mr. Mayor. Fred Robinson Way is how we've honored Fred's service to this community and the amazing growth that he oversaw during that period. It's no less fitting that we recognize the service of another long-serving member of your council, Dennis Brady. And so as you undertake these discussions, it's my hope that they will lead to a positive decision, that it's an appropriate way to recognize that service. It's an appropriate way to recognize the opportunity that he has extended to our residents as a result of his service. And I hope yours will extend to that recognition. I strongly support naming the dog park, not the Bowie Dog Park, but the Dennis Brady Dog Park. And I hope that's a decision that you'll reach as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We will now move on to presentations, and we will begin with the administration of oath of office, and I will be coming down to administer the oath. Now, this is a very exciting time for us.
Yes, it is.
Very exciting time. Jarryd Hawkins. Councilmember for the city of Bowie. Would you like to have anyone join you with your family up here?
Sure, all my family come over.
Feel free to come on up. Yeah, family. I would like to take a brief moment and introduce our former city council member, county council member, and now executive director of the ethics committee, Mr. Todd Turner. As well as Adrian Waffle, who is a delegate from District 23. Adrian? Okay. I would like you to raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Jarryd Hawkins,
Do swear or affirm
do swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland,
to the state of Maryland,
and to support the Constitution
and to support the Constitution
and laws thereof,
and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice, execute the office of, and state your office,
at-large city council member,
according to the Constitution
and according to the Constitution
and laws
of
this state.
this state.
Congratulations. We can get a picture?
Now it's too late.
I think that's good. And welcome to the family. Again, take a couple of pictures. Okay. Thank you very much. And I'd like Mr. Clinton Truesdale, Senior and family to come up. Feel free. If you would, please raise your right hand. Oh, I'll wait for the rest of the film. Now, if you need to come on this side as well, please. You come on this side. I'm standing. All right, if you would, please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Clinton Truesdale, Senior,
Do swear or affirm
do swear or affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United
the
States,
Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland,
to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution
and to support the Constitution
and laws thereof,
and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of
execute the office of City Councilman,
District 3.
District 3.
Okay.
Yeah,
According to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and laws of this state.
and laws of this state.
Congratulations. All right, picture time. Y'all don't mind if I join you? No. I had to do that for a moment. Yeah. Hey, thank you so very much, family. Mr. Truesdale, would you also take your seat? I like it.
That's my son.
All right. Excuse me, if someone credit card, Jarryd. On the right. I think, would you gentlemen come back down? I think there's a presentation by the delegate. Adrian, did you want to come up and do your presentation? Okay.
I want to say hello to you before you get up there. Mr. Mogul, when I was in your office when you were up there. Yeah, did you? Let's talk. Catch up.
Do you want them to just take this?
Yeah, take the seats.
You know what, gentlemen?
Hi, everyone. We're going to have a presentation from our state delegate, if you guys don't mind.
You can take your seats. Momentous occasion. Delegate Boafo has a presentation he'd like to make at this
Yes,
time.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, it is good to be back home where it all started for me personally. Thank you. I want to take a couple minutes before I present this citation to talk a little bit about what we're doing in Annapolis, but more importantly, to congratulate Councilmember now Hawkins and Councilmember Truesdale. You guys are going to learn quickly that you guys are entering into the most awesome job to truly have as public servants. Not just because you're working in local government, but you're truly representing some of the best people that we have here in the state of Maryland, and that is the citizens of Bowie. You got a little crash course earlier today on how they're going to be to you. Look, days will be tough. There will be days that you don't get things done. There'll be days that you fight with your colleagues. There'll be days that you're sad. But you must persevere through all of it, because the people behind us count on that at every single level of government. So I bring greetings from Annapolis on behalf of the District 23 team, our Senator Ron Watson, myself, Delegate Adrian Boafo, Delegate Marvin Holmes, and Delegate Kim Taylor. We're truly excited to present these citations to you guys as you guys begin your political journey here within the city of Bowie. I do want to say in Annapolis, we are extremely busy with our new governor, Wes Moore, our new comptroller, Brooke Learman, our new attorney general, Anthony Brown, and I'm excited to announce here to you guys in the city of Bowie that we are working extremely hard to make sure that we bring dollars back home. $2.6 million requested by the District 23 team to make sure that Bowie and the town of Upper Marlboro have the resources they need. So with that, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I will read the official citation on behalf of the General Assembly. Be it hereby known to all, sincerest congratulations are offered to Jarryd Hawkins in recognition of your swearing in to the Bowie City Council as an at-large city council member. We thank you for your service to our community and celebrate you on this special occasion presented on this 21st day of February 2023 by Senator Ron Watson, myself, Delegate Adrian Boafo, Delegate Marvin Holmes, and Delegate Kim Taylor.
Wow.
We'll do it later. We'll do it all together. And the second official General Assembly citation, be hereby known to all that sincerest congratulations are offered to Clinton Truesdale, Sr., in recognition of your swearing in to the Bowie City Council as District 3 council member, in my not so humble opinion, the best councilmatic district to represent. We thank you for your service to our community and celebrate you on this special occasion presented on this 21st day of February 2023 by Senator Ron Watson, myself, Delegate Adrian Boafo, Delegate Marvin Holmes, and Delegate Kim Taylor. Again, congratulations, enjoy the journey, and we look forward as a District 23 team to having you guys in Annapolis with us. Thank you.
Yeah. Huh?
Or were you putting something in the picture?
No, not at all.
Thank you. To our new colleagues, if you would like to take a moment, if you would like to make some very brief remarks as we are stretching along into the evening, if you would like to, please take a moment.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and to all my colleagues for the vote of confidence. It means the world to me. To the people of the city of Bowie, I really look forward to serving you all. Won't get too deep into policy or anything. It's getting too late. But to my family, I love you all. Thank you all for supporting me and being there for me. To my parents, Thank you for raising me. Thank you for making me who I am. To my cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone that's helped to get me here and provided such an amazing life. Thank you for being here for me and, you know, just being a part of my life. To my friends that are in the back supporting me, appreciate you all, love you all. You all have been amazing. You know, y'all are like family to me as well. To my fiance May, thank you for being here with me. Love you so much. To all my mentors, friends, people that I work with, my former boss and Todd Turner, thank you for your mentorship. Look forward to serving the city of Bowie. Thank you all for being here as well.
Is this thing on? Can you?
There you go.
All right, great. Look, this is going to be brief. I'm going to start with the 5 B's of public speaking. Be brief, brother, be brief. All right. So in that aspect, I like to thank my family. Is always an honor. My wife and I, we raised our sons 26 years ago in this beautiful city, and we started a business 22 years ago in this city, and we've been serving. It's always been an honor. I like to thank my mom, who's not with us, but I know she will be proud. My dad, my family members, all the customers, that we've been serving for years, but at the same time, all the constituents that we, look to be an ear, to hear, to serve, and to do the work. So it's time to go to work. I'm just thankful to God that that I'm here, and let's move forward. We got work to do.
All right. Thank you. At this time, I would like to do the presentation of Proclamation P323 to the Bowie High School Marching Band. If the members of the band could please stand, come forward. Family, everyone, come on.
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Don't be shy. I've seen you in action. Come on.
You guys are now high stepping, right?
Yes, sir.
You're high stepping now, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I went to Norfolk.
All right.
Yeah. Spartan.
My youngest daughter went there too.
Stop. Don't stop trouble.
Okay.
Stick with the script.
Okay.
All right.
What's up?
The City of Bowie, Maryland, proclamation. A proclamation of the City Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, recognizing the Bowie High School Marching Band. Whereas the inauguration of the governor and lieutenant governor is an important day in Maryland. And whereas the inauguration of Governor Wes Moore and Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller on January 18, 2023 was a historic event. And whereas Governor Moore became the state's first black governor and Lieutenant Governor Miller became the state's first immigrant and woman of color to become lieutenant governor, and whereas Bowie High School has an excellent marching band with talented musicians who work well together to perform incredible music, and whereas the Bowie High School marching band represented their school and our community exceptionally well when they had the honor of being chosen to perform as part of the inauguration ceremony of Governor Moore and Lieutenant Governor Miller. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, hereby recognizes and honors the Bowie High School Marching Band for their hard work, dedication, and the important role they played in this historic inauguration of Governor Moore and Lieutenant Governor Miller, presented by the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, on February 21st, 2023. Congratulations to you so much. Don't be shy. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for representing the city. Thank you. All right, y'all give them a big smile.
Yeah. Go Bulldogs. Go Bulldogs. Go Bulldogs. Go Bulldogs.
All right. Thank you again so much. And thank you for being here. Thank you so very much. There we go.
With the mayor. I'm gonna step out.
Thank you so much. And again, you guys, thank you. At this time, we will move on to the city boards and committees, appointments, reappointments, and the swearing in. Mr. Leslie Connitz was interviewed on February 6th for appointment to the Public Safety Committee. Council concurred to appoint him to the committee as a member for a 2-year term. Please move to appoint him.
Who has it? I don't have it. I don't have it.
What? Just move to appoint.
I'd like to, a motion to move for appointment of Mr. Leslie Connitz to the Public Safety Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, the motion carries. Would you please come forward? Would you please raise your right hand? I state your name.
I, Leslie Connitz,
Do swear or affirm
do swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland,
to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution
and support the Constitution
and laws thereof,
and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of regular state
office
Public Safety Committee
Safety Committee
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and laws of this state.
and laws of the state.
Congratulations.
There you go. Thank you so very much. Okay, okay. Thank you.
Congrats, thanks a lot. Appreciate
And thank you for being willing to serve.
That was a 17-year commitment.
Only the last one's paid.
Thank you so very much.
We will now move to council announcements. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. So just a few quick announcements that I wanted to share this evening. I know that we have lost a large portion of our audience, but I'll make this brief. I received a lot of emails today in regards to the tobacco store in Pointer Ridge, and I also want to acknowledge and recognize a lot of the constituents and residents who came forward today to share their concerns about the tobacco store that has opened up in Pointer Ridge community. We really do appreciate your willingness to express yourselves and also let us know what it is that you wish to see in the Pointer Ridge community, and also to hold us accountable to what it is that you desire to see there. I have a quick question for our city attorney before I move on to my announcements in regards to the proposals that were made this evening in regards to the 24-hour tobacco store. Legally, Alyssa, can we do any of those things that were proposed tonight by any of the residents in terms of the ordinance, in terms of the letter to that facility, in terms of any type of legal authority that we have with this tobacco store?
You have no authority to exercise any control over land use issues. That's a little bit of a slight overstatement, but in regard to this specific use, you have no power to regulate it. You cannot adopt an ordinance that would prohibit it. You can't write a letter to them that threatens them in any way. You can certainly express your concern to the county council over the use in question. However, I don't know that with respect to an existing lawful use, the county can do much about that either. I will leave that to them, but I suspect that whatever concerns you've raised to them are not, that there's not going to be a recourse to address them.
And let me,
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I'm
sorry,
finished.
Alyssa, let me just ask a quick follow-up question. If we are to send a letter to this particular business expressing the concerns of our constituents, is that in any way, maybe, like, I don't know if that's considered harassment by the city government or what that essentially looks like legally. Can you share?
Well, you could send a letter that said, our community has expressed concerns over the impact of the sale of tobacco products to youth members of the community. And we, the city, would like to express our hope that you will be good community partners. You can say that sort of thing. But you can't tell them that you are going to shut them down or attempt to take other measures to impair their business that don't apply equally to other similarly situated businesses. In other words, that business will be expected to comply with your reasonable health, safety, and welfare measures that you have adopted that apply to all businesses and residents in your community, but you can't single it out for disparate treatment because the neighbors are unhappy with its existence.
Thank you so much for that, Alyssa. I think that's important for us to have clarity in terms of what is in our authority here and also understand what it is that we can do and in the proper way to advocate for our constituents. I do want to share this thought. We do hear you and we do see you. We don't I don't want any constituent or any resident to feel like they've been disregarded, or we don't hear your concerns, or that we're not acting on them, or that we're not trying to move economic development in the city forward. So that's something that I want to point out. There are two things that are top of mind for me that I will just call to announcement. ICSC, traditionally in the past, council members have not attended that conference. Myself and Councilmember Gardner have registered to go to the International Council of Shopping Centers conference this year in May. And our goal there is to really advocate for the type of retail that we want to see in Bowie and have conversations with those retailers to understand what is prohibiting them from coming into this community. A lot of people have talked about Whole Foods over the last couple of months. Whole Foods traditionally, when they do go into a community, there's apartment complexes on top of Whole Foods or in the surrounding area where Whole Foods and the Trader Joe's types of establishments go to. And so I think it's going to be important for us to really understand, and one thing that I'm going to look to direct staff to do is to see how we can maybe put together a survey to understand precisely and exactly from many of the HOAs and many of the different neighboring communities to those shopping centers, what exact retail is it that you would like to see here, so that we can have physical, tangible names, and so that we can approach those retailers and have conversations with them to understand why they're not in our community, because we feel the exact same way. And so I don't know if we can do that in this measure, or we need to bring that up for an agenda item. I'll let our assistant city manager clarify in a second if we can direct staff to put together that survey or to attend some HOA meetings to really get some precise names of the type of businesses that our constituents would like to see here, so that when we do go to this conference, we have a game plan and we are prepared to approach and have the right conversations with the right retail entities. That's the first thing, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Mayor to go to assistant city manager. The second thing is, one thing that I would like to do in the next coming month is to have a developer roundtable. I do think that developers are following an industry trend right now. And it seems like we don't really understand what that industry trend is, or there's a big disconnect there. Developers are essentially attracting certain businesses or being amenable to certain leaseholders coming into their establishment, which is something that we as a city council don't have jurisdiction over. So I think it's important to open those lines of communications now that we have a new county council, and now that we also do have new members on our city council, to open those lines of communications with developers to understand what are those industry trends that they're tracking off of, that they're paying attention to, what are the types of retailers that they are trying to attract to Bowie, and what investments are they prepared to make in our community for revitalization plans. If I can point out just really briefly, and I'll be done in a second, Mr. Mayor, Pointer Ridge Plaza, there are a number of stores there that are incongruent with what needs to happen in that shopping center. We talk about the 24-hour tobacco store. There's also a liquor store in that community. There's also a carryout. There's a dollar store, and there are 2 gas stations right there, isolated from the Sky Zone. So it already has a certain type of trend that's going on in that shopping center that I think this is a much bigger conversation about a revitalization plan, that we need to figure out what needs to happen holistically across the city of Bowie to be able to attract the better retailers there. Because trust and believe, it will be very difficult for a Whole Foods to come next to a 24-hour tobacco store. That's just not the industry trend right now. So if we are going to attract better businesses or do things differently, I do believe that we need to bring developers to the table. We need to bring business owners that are already existing in the community, that have come into the community over the last year to the table, to really understand what is it that we need to do and what investments are they prepared to make in our community, so that we can bring that back to you and you can make the most informed decision on how you expect to hold us accountable. So that's what I wanted to share. Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you are open to me asking the assistant city manager if we can send out that survey, or if they are open to attending HOA meetings so that we can understand what exact types of businesses people are hoping to see from us.
I think that's a fair request, so we can take that as an action item.
Certainly, we can put out a simple survey going out online. I don't know how accurate that is going to be. This is one of the challenging areas in regards to resident perceptions in terms of retail and what they want, and it's always challenged by where people actually end up spending their money and what ends up thriving and sustaining. There is often a disconnect in terms of those surveys, in terms of the response that you get from those surveys to where people actually practice in terms of their expenditure dollars. If you were be interested in something more comprehensive in terms of getting a real pulse of the community, this might be a good sort of budget priority for us to look at in the next fiscal year, if we want to have more of a broader look and have it be a little bit more scientifically viable in regards to a survey, but I'm sure we can get out a quick survey form online to get some open feedback from folks.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just add one more thing, just very briefly. Also, the last thing I just want to mention is the same sentiments and the same thoughts that you're sharing with us. I just want to also urge you to continue sharing that with the county, because we can also advocate and we can send letters and we can talk to our also elected peers, but it's stronger when it comes from the community as well. So I just want to make sure that as you move forward in expressing these desires to us, and we understand and have expressed here that we don't have a ton of jurisdiction over this particular issue, just make sure that you're also articulating that to the county as well and directing that to them, so that when we are having those conversations, they also have the constituents to point back to as well. Thank you.
Okay. Would you like, go ahead, Councilman.
If I could jump in with one word of caution. I totally agree with, making sure that we're always sounding out residents with where they are, with their concerns, but I do have to echo the comments that Mr. Mears made, which is that there's a massive disconnect between what people say they want in next door comment sections and what they actually do in real life and what they actually want in real life. Most of these conversations have already been happening for years with developers and commercial property owners. The developers and the commercial property owners want a ton of residential, and they want a bunch of rich people within walking distance to support their businesses. Residents might say in principle they like that, but the moment you start redeveloping centers with a lot of residential, they tend to not like that a whole lot. Further, residents have been telling us for years they want to see higher quality businesses. The reality is that the businesses that show up are showing up because they're pretty sure they're going to make money here. They stick around when they are making money, they leave when they stop making money. And so there's a potential that all this studying and analysis on top of all the other money we've already spent on economic plans and consultants and branding in the last couple of years, this could become a black hole real quick of spending that doesn't necessarily yield us a whole lot of actionable products. So just one word of caution, but I otherwise support the spirit and sentiment of what we're trying to do.
Thank you. You? Yeah, and then I'll go. Well, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I just want to be very brief. I echo completely the eloquent words of Mayor Pro Tem Ndevamadu. She's right on point, and Councilmember Stev, I totally agree with the both of them. We don't want to find ourselves going down a rabbit hole, but we have to do something to make a change here as far as the value and the type of retail we have here in Bowie. I mean, we're looking at this community with such great income levels, educational levels, home values, and things of that nature. And you're right, we have a 24-hour tobacco shop that just doesn't work. And within feet or yards of a school. But I want to ask the question, I have a question of the city attorney, and both the city attorney and assistant city manager. The information that you conveyed to Mayor Pro Tem Ndevamadu about the policies or the guidelines or the procedures or the involvement that the city actually has when it comes to retail selection. Could that information be conveyed to our residents somehow? Because I've been working to educate some of our residents and neighbors on how we are not involved in the retail process, and we can't, because I've had a number of them complain about the number of beauty supply shops. They're everywhere here. I mean, I didn't know it was so many heads around, but there's so many beauty supply shops everywhere. And so I'd like to see if we could put that information out, because it would have been fantastic had the audience tonight heard what you said today, because as they said tonight, they're going to hold us accountable for something we can't get involved in or have no power over. So I was wondering if somehow we could, how do we educate the public?
If I may, Councilman, if you could, I'd like if you could, City Attorney, just draft up something that kind of summed up what you shared back with us, that we would be able to share, just in general, that we could put out, that individuals could share with people who voice their concerns and other, to let them know that. So if that's possible.
Could it go on the
in
website?
general.
Could it go on the city's website? I mean, is that impossible?
If I may?
Yes, you may.
I think I understand what it is that you're looking for. I would suggest that you allow me to work with staff, the city manager's office and the planning department, because I typically would not provide legal advice to the public. It puts me in a conflict of interest situation with you. I can say sort of generically the things that I've said tonight, but I think it makes sense to do that in the context of sort of a larger educational piece that tells members of the public what the planning and land use process is in the county, and outlines sort of your authority and the scope of that authority that the city does have, because you've worked hard to earn and gain over the years a sort of minimal amount of authority within the framework of that you're stuck with in terms of the creation of the regional district. So
if you could work with staff, that would be great.
That would be.
I'd like to make a comment too, that I think even for our new council members, that as you may have heard, it was there is limited control we have on a lot of these things, and it's about educating the public on what we have. I do want you to also know that it was I'm trying to find the best way to put it, and I'll say a mischaracterization that we were trading a tobacco store for a school. Everyone who knows me knows how hard I fought to keep Pointer Ridge open. Everybody knows we're still trying to see what we can do at this point. So to say that we as a council, or that we have not attempted to keep Pointer Ridge open and is not a fact. I mean, if you go back and listen to WTOP, you'll hear me on the radio doing interviews about keeping Pointer Ridge open.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure that that's not exactly accurate in that, but one of the things is people have their emotions. That's why we have the citizen participation, for them to share what their thoughts are. But I think what we have to do is to make sure that we let people know that we have been working to do that, and we have worked hard about it, and we've had some real difficult times in doing it. And they put it off for a year, but we're still looking to see what, if anything, we can do to still keep it open moving forward. So, and we have worked with the school board on doing that as well. So I share that with you just coming in, because you may not have heard that already, but just so you'll know, we are actively engaged in that as well. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Any other comments from any other members?
Just really quickly. Myself and Councilmember Gardner will be testifying in front of the school board on Thursday's meeting in public. So just want to put that out there. We are still actively fighting for Pointer Ridge, and we will be testifying on Thursday in front of the school board meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. At this time, no other council announcements. We'll move to the city manager's report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Daniel Mears, Assistant City Manager. First off, on behalf of the City of Bowie staff, I'd like to welcome Councilmember Hawkins, Councilmember Truesdale. We look forward to working with you over these coming months, getting to know you. It is an exciting time to be joining the City Council. Our staff has been working on the preparation of our annual budget. In the coming weeks, we will be presenting information on the City Manager's presented budget to you all. This is the opportunity to really get into the policy direction, the guidance for the city staff in regards to the next fiscal year in terms of the true impact for what we do on a day-to-day basis for the city. So congratulations. Look forward to working with you on that. That'll conclude my comments at this point.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. We will now move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Like a motion to move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye. Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. As I look at our agenda, we have no old business. Is that correct, Madam City Clerk?
Yes, Mayor, there's no old business this evening.
All right, we will now move on to the new business and the fiscal year 23 mid-year budget report. Staff will give us an update on the progress towards the completion of our budget objectives. And I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. As I just mentioned, now is the time where we are working on preparing the budget for the upcoming fiscal year, but we have also just passed the halfway mark of the current fiscal year. And we take this opportunity each year to take a look at our budget. We take a look at the budget goals that we have, and we prepare a report for you all to give you a status in regards to where we are on a number of the objectives that we set out a year ago. I wanted to take an opportunity to highlight several of these, and Mr. Matthews may have a few more comments in regards to our fiscal position, and then we'll certainly have an opportunity for some questions, comments, or feedback from you all. So one of the first things I wanted to mention, we have a lot of administrative practices that are in place on page 5 under the city clerk's office. One of the objectives was to provide a briefing to city committees and staff liaisons on the rules and regulations for city committees. So our city clerk staff worked on having a meeting with all of our boards and commissions and provided training for all of them, and that was completed to update them on our processes. Next item that I wanted to highlight is on page 11 of the report under emergency management. This one was to conduct an emergency response related functional tabletop exercise, and our emergency management staff did do that. We conducted a tabletop exercise concerning a breach of the Northridge Dam. This is something where we had participation from the City of Bowie departments as well as outside agencies to run through and work through a real-life scenario that could happen and practice our emergency management techniques. Actually, today and tomorrow, we have additional emergency management training that we are hosting at the city. Folks from Maryland Emergency Management are conducting training for our staff and other people in surrounding jurisdictions so we can get familiar with disaster response. Moving on to page 15 under the police department, one of the goals was to establish a second bloodhound canine officer to assist, and that happened earlier this year. We were joined by Bloodhound Bailey, who has been very popular in the community so far, and that's always a good public relations tool, as well as the ability to search for missing persons and things along those lines. Next, I wanted to move to page 23 under our senior services. One of the goals that they had was to expand the existing volunteer program by 20% by recruiting new volunteers. As of this update, they had added 20 new volunteers that have been welcome, oriented, and trained, and those positions join an existing base of 70 volunteers at the senior center. So it's nice to see post-pandemic we are having good activity and response, and the community is still engaged at our senior center. Moving over on to page 24, I want to highlight an item from our Youth Services Bureau. They were looking to implement an event or activity that was identified in the 2022 Youth Forum, and they did complete that on December 10th. They had an after-school mindfulness and mental health program at the Bowie High School, and they had completed that objective that they were looking to do. Moving on page 31 under historic properties and museums, one of their objectives they have scheduled coming up on April 15th. They're looking to have a health and wellness expo at the Bel Air Mansion. It's going to be an event that is focusing on educating residents of Bowie how to become healthier individuals and providing a historic perspective of how physical, spiritual, and mental health were dealt with in centuries past. So it should be a unique opportunity coming up for people to participate in. Wanted to highlight a capital item on page 37 associated with the Bowie Golf Course. We're underway finishing up irrigation improvements that was in the budget last year. We have Also neared completion on identifying water source improvements. The golf course utilizes surface water for the irrigation of the golf course through the use of irrigation ponds, and with the new irrigation system we wanted to make sure that we had adequate water to be able to provide that irrigation. Some other projects associated with the golf course, there is architectural and engineering work being conducted currently on the maintenance building, renovation of hole number 9, and also the driving range. Moving on, page 41, under our Planning and Sustainability Department, I wanted to highlight a new incentive rebate program for city residents. Historically, we've had a mulching mower rebate program. We have expanded that this year in regards to electric garden tools as a whole. So there's information on the website if people are interested in purchasing electric-powered gardening tools. That is an expanded program, and it's been very well received so far. Moving over to page 49 under our wastewater division. This is something that we've seen throughout the budget in regards to adopting and training staff on an asset management program. This is specifically associated with the wastewater division. Across Public Works, we have been computerizing, getting a better asset inventory control, and teaching our staff how to update items in the asset program, and also administer our maintenance, so we have a better record of keeping track of all of our physical assets. And last, I wanted to go over to page 62 and talk about a couple of items. The first is our meter replacement, and we've reached a milestone. We are in year 7 of 7 of meter replacements, and we have completed the replacement of all of our residential meters. It's a big effort of the Public Works staff and a big accomplishment that they've been working on for several years. The other item to mention is in regards to our water system, in regards to the recapitalization program. The City Council has allocated $5.1 million for that work. We have split the project into 2 parts, and we've awarded the first bid for construction for the relining of those water lines, and our staff is currently working on meeting the terms of an earmark coming from the federal government through the Environmental Protection Agency, and we're working on meeting the requirements so we can go out to bid from the EPA requirements. So we'll be seeing a few million more dollars worth of work coming in the coming months. That's all I have. Mr. Matthews, do you have anything you'd like to add in regards to sort of a financial overview for us, where we're at?
Thank you, Mr. Mears. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm H. Byron Matthews, the Finance Director for the City of Bowie. The financial summary, I really don't have much to say this evening. These financial statements are not new to you. You've had enough time to go over them. But as you can see, just from the general fund revenue standpoint, that we're doing a lot better than we were doing this time last year. As the first 6 months, we're doing revenue at $43.1 million versus $42.2 million last year. As far as our budget revenues are concerned for this fiscal year, we're right on target as we were last year. We have no real abnormalities that are happening through the budget on the general side. Again, you've seen the expenditures for December month ending 2022. As you can see, our year-to-date expenditures at this point were $25.6 million, which was about 37% of the budget. If I move on to water and sewer, we've been able to work through our water and sewer problems without borrowing any money as of yet. Everything has been happening through the user charges and the fund balance that we have in water and sewer. And we're watching that real closely. The more that we're able to obtain grants and other federal assistance, the less that we'll have to rely on the increase in rates and the use of the fund balance. But everything is going steady in water and sewer. There's nothing to report. As you can see, I guess I would say that the only change in our approach here is that the CARES money, we have received all of that. That was like $4.3 million. And that's one of the reasons why we have not needed to go out for any borrowing as we are replacing the water pipes.
So, Mr. Mayor, as we've been going through this year, we have certainly been challenged with workforce challenges. You know, we are certainly hunting for new employees quite regularly. We've had a number of different changes in key positions over the past year, like many organizations have. And we're also faced with different issues associated with supply chain and being able to get some products and things necessary to complete the work. But all in all, very proud of the city staff, the number of projects that we have ongoing, and the ability to keep progress going on many of the objectives included in the budget. So at this time, if anybody has any comments.
I'd like to first just simply make the comment of how appreciative we are for city staff, our finance department, all. There's no lack of dedication or brain thrust there. And I want to thank all of you for what you've been doing in making that happen. It doesn't just happen. I mean, it's about the dedication, it's about doing it. One of the things I would say too is that we need to tell our residents and others that there are opportunities in the city and that it's a great organization to work with and work for. And that the personnel, the staff, it's a welcoming place. And so I think we want to do and make sure we let people know that it's a great place to be and a great place to work, and that we do that to encourage people to do it as well. But I just want to say, you know, the numbers looking good. I'm glad to hear things are tracking. That's always good news, you know. And to say our revenues are up slightly is great. And again, I just want to say thank you to staff, to all of you for what you're doing, all the projects that are ongoing, and all the leadership we have. So thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I do have a quick.
Okay. I will go Michael, then.
Yes.
Before and I have a deal. What I don't grab, he'll grab. Real quick, Dan, on the White Marsh replacement bridge. So as I understand it, the city purchased a bridge. We have a bridge. We're just waiting for the personnel to install it. Can you update us on that?
Yes, we were going to be doing that project in-house, and I think what they're looking for is a clear weather window associated with that. But let me follow up with Public Works and see if I can get a more definitive timeline. But it is on track for us to complete early this spring.
Gotcha. Sooner rather than later would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. Thank you again to staff for keeping progress going on so many different fronts. Greatly appreciate it. A couple of questions. The first is, Mr. Matthews, on fund balance. Can you speak a little bit of where we are on the fund balance in terms of vis-a-vis the budget and where we're expected to be at the end of the year, up or down? I believe we're moving a little bit up.
Thank you for the question, Councilman. At June 30th, excuse me, 2022, the city ended with a fund balance of $42 million. That was up about approximately 1 million from last year. In FY23, we proposed that we would use about 10.1 million of the fund balance. That's what we used to balance the budget for FY23. We are still tracking that way. There is possibilities, as you know, the city tends to outperform its budget. Revenues normally comes in close to what we budget. Expenditures are normally anywhere from 92 to 98% of our budget. So at this point, we're tracking with the original estimates that we provided for you during the first adopted budget session. Excuse me.
Excellent, thank you. Let's see what we got here. That was covered. Question for Mr. Mears. Allen Pond Park. I saw we have some changes that are going on there in terms of picnic area, things that we're not updating, and there was mention made of ideas on the stage changes being considered for how we address the stages replacement.
Ms. Hine is available, and she'll give a response on that.
Outstanding. Thank you, and welcome, Ms. Hines. How are you?
So I'm well, thank you.
Outstanding.
Unless I start coughing, and then you'll know I'm not so well.
Outstanding. Outstanding in the rain.
So we are going to be making a recommendation as a part of the budget you're going to be seeing to scale back the stage replacement at Allen Pond and keep it on the original site of the existing stage. We'll be tearing that one down and putting a more modular structure there. And because we're not moving the stage as originally planned, we don't need to relocate the picnic areas and the fitness center. So we'll be coming back and with a proposal when the budget comes in to do a much more modest, which amphitheater, or stage, not an amphitheater is a slope, stage is the stage, for you guys. And hopefully that will be something you think will be appropriate for the city and will also save a significant amount of money.
Excellent, thank you. And with regards to that, so we'll be able to maintain the existing amphitheater usage?
Yeah, we'll be maintaining the slope that we have now. We'll be doing some upgrades, but our intent is to be doing some of the A&E on that prior to the next budget gets started. We're going to be using some of those funds that we're saving to try to get that started, get a little bit of lift off on it so we can give you some better numbers when we're actually meeting with you. But I think we're looking more like $1 million than, I think the original one might have been three to $4 million.
Excellent, thank you. So this is starting to sound like something that might fall into a realm of a bond request that we might be able to pursue with our delegates.
To tie into this, we do have a earmark that we are pursuing through the federal government, associated with the current budget that they're working through, and I'm sure the progress on that will be swift. We are currently anticipating getting some dollars associated with improvements to Allen Pond Park. So as that develops, that may shape the budget request that we have coming in to you all this year, provided we get some clarity in the coming weeks.
Excellent. Delighted to hear. Thank you very much. I noted in the again, Mr. Mears, I noted in the mid-year report here that we were well below, it looked to me, in the city manager's office in terms of budget spend. I've forgotten exactly what the numbers were. Is there a key savings driver to that?
So in the city manager's office, you're talking about the entire city manager's
Yes.
section, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the largest drivers associated with that comes in our business operations. We have some significant capital associated in the budget for fiber optic redundant program. Since that is not underway yet, that is
Gotcha.
probably a large portion as to why we're underspending that. A significant amount of the city manager's budget is actually personnel costs, so it's leading me to believe that's the reason.
Excellent.
Byron, anything to add on that?
No, Mr. Mayor, I think the personnel cost is really the driver.
Excellent, thank you. Next question is, can you provide a status on where we are with speed cameras?
So I know there's been an evaluation in place. Let me follow up with Chief Neske in regards to the next steps associated with that.
All right, in particular, I just want to make sure, my understanding of the program earlier that we had tested involved multiple mobile units, and I want to ensure that that's what we are moving forward with, because I remember there was discussions and some tests associated even with some handheld devices, and I want to ensure we're progressing on that path. So if you could get me some data on that, that would be fantastic.
Certainly, yeah. I know we're working on putting the bids together for that, but let me get the detailed status and we'll follow up with you.
I think they're
Bids out?
yeah.
Okay.
I think they're actually back. I think they're evaluating the. Okay, excellent. So if you could give me a status, if there's been a selection made, and ensuring that those services that we had talked about before were included in the proposals, to include the mobile units with the the trailer type units as well as the handheld. Thank you. And then you mentioned briefly the capital expenditures on the water improvement effort. The 5.1 split first versus second, understand the distinction with the federal procurement requirements, so that's understood. Where do we stand in terms of timing for actually shovels in ground and a list of exact locations, timing, and that sort of thing?
Let me follow up with you on that. I know the contract has been awarded. Let me get the dates back for you, and we'll have that response for you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, no, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Wolfley actually hit a couple of my questions.
Okay.
On the speed camera program.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. First, I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for preparing this. This is really comprehensive, and thank you. We really appreciate it. And it's always good to hear how we're trending financially. One thing that I do want to highlight and just recognize in terms of just how we've been hiring, because we outlined it on page 1 inside of the book. Mr. Haley, you've been taking a really innovative approach with how you approach hiring, and I've noticed a number of different postings on various job sites and how you've been active in trying to recruit people to the city of Bowie. So just want to commend you on those efforts too, because I think it is very unconventional, the approach that you've taken. But as we can see that you are really, really adopting new measures to make sure that people understand what fabulous place they could be working at. So thank you for that. My first question, and my main question, is really on the economic development piece. And I don't know if you'll have specific answers tonight, Daniel, but it's really on the number 2, where we talk about establishing a formal business retention program. Where are we on the program itself? I know we hired a retention specialist, but where are we on the program? And then the second question that's going to closely follow that, it talks about the grants that we give out for Bowie BIC, and how we're seeing that many of those businesses that we give grants to don't essentially come and locate themselves in the city. Is there an opportunity to potentially change the way that grant is structured and require people to have their businesses based in the city for them to receive that grant? That's the follow-up question.
Let me take that second part first in regards to Bowie BIC. The grants that we give to Bowie BIC are to that entity. So the structure in terms of how that money is going, it's going to Bowie BIC, not specifically the participants of Bowie BIC in and of itself. If we were to be changing around the terms in terms of wanting to see their participation change, I think that would have to be something that we really talk about and explore to see if there's some options associated with it. But the structure of the grant itself is not going directly to each of those businesses. We're supporting a larger effort, and the location certainly is something that, you know, we'd love to have more of the businesses located in Bowie, certainly. The other question in regards to the business retention, correct, we do have our business retention specialist that has joined us. She has been getting up to speed. She is new in economic development. She's got a great mentor in John Henry King. Let me, beyond what's written in this report, let me see if I can get him to provide a little more detailed follow-up in regards to the activities of that business retention, so you can understand how we've been deploying that with that new effort for ourselves this year.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I think those are all my questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you, staff, for that. We will now move on to item B, employee comp time policies.
Thank you. Yes, we had a request in regards to our employee comp time policies. Mr. Stephen Haley, our Director of Human Resources, is here, and he'll provide some background for it.
Thank you, Mr. Mears. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Welcome to our new council members as well. I am Stephen Haley. I am the Human Resources Director. And so, as Mr. Mears said, we had a request just to talk a little bit about what the city's comp time policies are. So, to begin, I'll talk just so everybody is understanding what exactly comp time or compensatory time actually is. And basically, it's a non-cash method of paying non-exempt employees who are primarily hourly employees overtime under the Fair Labor Standards Act. And so the method of doing that is, instead of paying them in cash, which in traditional overtime would be time and a half, 1 hour and a half for each hour that they work over 40 hours. With compensatory time, we pay them with leave time. So for every hour that they work over, they can be credited an hour and a half or time and a half for each of the hours that they work over 40 hours. So compensatory time is something that applies primarily just to public sector agencies. And so the way that we administer it is really exactly as prescribed by the Fair Labor Standards Act, or the FLSA. We allow, again, our employees who are eligible, our non-exempt employees, when they work overtime, they have a choice. They can request to have it paid to them as traditionally, as cash at time and a half, or they can take it as comp time. And we find, our employees do a bit of both. Our policy is that our employees who are non-public safety, everybody outside of our police department, are able to accrue up to 240 hours. Again, that's in accordance with the FLSA. At the end of each year, they are permitted to carry forward just half of that, or 120 hours, which equates to 15 days. The rest of that is paid out to them in cash at that point. The FLSA allows public safety staff, in our case our police department, they are eligible to accrue up to 480 hours of comp time each year. And they are actually exempt from that cutoff at the end of the year. So they can theoretically go into the next year having maxed out their comp time. So anybody who works overtime hours who is already at their maximum, again, 480 for public safety, 240 for non-public safety. Once they hit that limit, again, they're paid cash for that amount over. So again, that's so as they will not accrue over the pre-prescribed limit. Once employees separate service, if they have non-exempt employees have comp time on the books, they're actually paid out that amount in cash at the end of their service. And so again, the way that we are administering it is pretty much like that. It's a pretty straightforward program. And again, it is consistent with the Department of Labor and the Fair Labor Standards Act.
A quick question is, do we have a feel how much we typically pay out at the end of the year with carryover, understanding they can take 120 hours? Do we know typically what that dollar figure ends up being at the end of the year?
I don't have that. I can get that, work with payroll and finance and get that information.
Because I'm assuming that Mr. Matthews calculates that in as he's doing his numbers, so to make sure for budget purposes.
Mayor, it's basically not part of the budget structure. When we do our budget, it's basically based on the, excuse me. Excuse me, Mayor. Each employee is calculated based on the hours that they normally work in a normal schedule. We have a particular overtime line item should folks actually work overtime.
Gotcha.
So it is budgeted in that method, not in a combined method with their regular salary. So folks has to be scheduled overtime based on experience for that particular department. We analyze how much they have used in the past.
Gotcha.
Department heads indicate on an annual basis what their projections will be for the upcoming year. We look at that. We have to take that in consideration because we have vacancies during the year. So it's not necessarily that we're going to raise your overtime level when we have vacancies that can be offset with the regular salary. So there's an analysis that's done to compute all of the compensation that's generated by city employees.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what I'm saying. You do account for it in the budget as you're doing that. So it is a line item or made into it. Okay, yeah. That's what I thought. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, anyone? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Haley, for that comprehensive overview. I would definitely love to see the numbers that are associated with that. So if you can work with Mr. Mears and get that over to council, that would be interesting to just see what dollar amount is associated with that, following up on the mayor's question. Question for you. You talked about only hourly employees. Does this also apply to salaried employees as well, or is it strictly just hourly employees?
So for what I had mentioned for hourly employees, that is, again, the requirements of the Fair Labor Standards Act. Now, the city does offer comp time to salaried employees. However, it is on an hour-for-hour basis, and it is not compensable at the time that the employee separates. So that's the key difference. But to answer your question, yes, we do have a program for salaried employees.
And is that, I know you talked about years of experience and some other things that you mentioned, that's available to all salaried employees, or does tenure and experience matter in that factor?
No, that's available to all salaried employees.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, and then also, just out of curiosity, what essentially drove the origination of this approach? I know from many other agencies, they offer something instead called flex time, where essentially the employees are able to either take time off or come into work late if they do reach their 40-hour maximum. So what drove the adoption of this approach for us as a city?
So it has actually been in place for years. It frankly predated me. But again, it's an option, again, that we offer employees. Most agencies who do it, it's thought of as something of a benefit to employees. So it's an opportunity for them to generate more leave time, if that's what they prefer, as compensation instead of the cash, as is the case in traditional overtime. Again, it's just a bit of an option for staff.
Thank you so much, Mr. Haley. I think those are all my questions, Mr. Mayor.
Certainly.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Haley.
We will now move on to item C, the pickleball courts at Glen Allen Park. Oh, go ahead.
Before we turn that over to staff, Daniel, do you mind? I just want to give a brief overview. This is another agenda item that I placed on the agenda along with comp time. And the idea here is to just get an overall presentation from Sally. I know that she shared something earlier this week in regards to pickleball, but we've had a number of residents reach out expressing the growing interest in pickleball across the community. And so what Sally did was take a proactive approach and do a lot of detailed research to understand what a potential conversion of Glen Allen Park could look like, the tennis court of Glen Allen Park could look like for us to be able to accommodate further pickleball usage in the city. Now, I do think we have found a happy medium for the time being, but I'll turn it over to Sally to allow her to give a brief presentation on just what her findings were before we recommend either moving the conversion up or not. Thank you.
So yeah, I have learned a lot about pickleball in the last couple of weeks, more than I probably ever wanted to know. But the long and the short of it is that the city already has, and I'm sorry, I can share with our new council people some of this detail later, but the city only has one tennis facility that we own. It's 2 outdoor courts together at Glen Allen Park. Every other tennis facility that you see in the city either belongs to the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission or to the school board. So really, we only have one. We did put in the budget 3 or 4 years ago, I like to think we're forward thinking, that we would consider overstriping, and they call it hybrid the courts, which means your tennis courts remain and you put stripes for pickleball on top of those courts. Very similar to a basketball court where you'll see multiple, you'll see volleyball, you'll see 2 or 3 kinds of basketball there. So we put the money in the budget to do that this year. When this came up, we did a little more research, and I'm questioning a little bit whether or not this is the right place for us to do this, because there are homes fairly close. If you take a little walk from the parking lot there at Glen Allen to where the tennis court exists, there are 3 homes that are relatively close to that. The sound of pickleball is much louder than the sound of tennis. Sounds like an exaggerated ping pong game. So there are concerns, and I think I sent a link, and I will get that to you again, where there are some places where pickleball courts have been built and shut down because communities complained about the noise. So I don't want to jump into anything too quickly, which is why I wasn't in a hurry to accelerate this until we make sure we've done our homework and that we want to do this. The pickleball folks that I've spoken to are kind of all over the place. Certainly they would, I think in general, prefer to have what they call dedicated courts, which means there are no other stripes but their stripes on the court. They would love for us to build a whole building that just has pickleball courts inside, and I've pretty much assured them that that's not going to happen in my lifetime. That if indeed we do build another indoor facility, we might well stripe pickleball on top of basketball there as well, because they're fairly complementary. You've got people playing pickleball in the daytime, you've got your basketball in the evening. So there could be a complementary piece there. So I'm not sure we're going to please all the people all the time with whatever we do here, but I don't want to jump into spending money that we have to undo later because we get concerns about noise. I didn't even mention, and I've continued to research this even since I sent that piece to you guys last week, about if there might be a possibility for a public-public partnership here. As I mentioned, Park and Planning has at least 50, if not more, tennis courts probably throughout the city. You know, is it possible that we could pick one of those and we could public-public partnership together to do a conversion, a permanent conversion in a place where the pickleball, where the tennis court is not particularly close? One of the sites that I looked at is the South Huntington site, which is right off Old 197 on the left there. You pass it heading towards Old Bowie. It's got tennis courts, basketball courts, and a playground. There are no houses nearly as close there. So, and I have a meeting tomorrow morning with Park and Planning to talk about a lot of different things, and that'll be one of the topics, certainly, whether it's that one. That court is lighted, we believe, which would give a lighted court, could be dedicated potentially. But I have no idea when the last time that court was resurfaced, whether they have any interest in giving that up, or if that's the most popular tennis court they have. Until we meet with them and speak to them, and we have a very open relationship with Park and Planning, you know, we won't know the answer to that. Now, Park and Planning did just restripe Fox Hill Park, which is 8 lighted tennis courts. They restriped that to put 8 lighted tennis courts, probably 16. They can put 2 on each tennis court. So it should be about 16 courts. And they are lighted, but they're overlaid, and that's what our true pickleball players are not asking for. And they have to put the nets up themselves, as opposed to a tennis court where the nets are on permanent stanchions. So there is a little more work involved in doing it. I know that the nets have not gone to the park yet, but I did have confirmation today that they expect to deploy the nets there on the 1st of March, assuming they get them. They're supposed to be in their hands this week, and they would put them out there this week. So you should start to see people playing pickleball on those courts, day and night, because the courts are lighted there. So there are a number of pickleball options around, and the most recent information I've gotten from the pickleball folks, there is a Prince George's County Pickleball Club. There is not a Bowie Pickleball Club. And it is not a majority Bowie group, although they use our Bowie gymnasium. Very, very popular. They rent it 3 days a week for about 2 or 3 hours for pickleball. We also open our gym the other days they rent it 2 days a week. We open it 3 days a week for people to come in and play pickleball. So there are opportunities, and they're very busy. Feel free to stop in there. Councilman Estev was in there a couple of weeks ago when I happened to be in the building. So you can stop in any time in the morning, usually between 10 and 12 roughly, and you'll see a lot of pickleball going on. And a lot of them will be Bowie residents, people that you and I both know. So at any rate, but they don't want these overlaid courts, they tell me. If that's what we're going to do, they said, don't bother. So if that's really where we're going to go, and that's what we initially had planned to do, you know, we can put permanent courts in. I even have a quote on doing that. My only concern is that the noise potentially could be an issue, and then you'd have to take them back out again. And if we could locate a better place, I'm all in favor of pickleball. And pickleball is an expanding sport. It used to be for old people. Now it's for pretty much everybody. But I don't want to rush into something is my only concern, and spend money that we have to spend again later if we can't, you know, give people what they're really asking for. So, you know, that would be my request, is that we just give us a little bit more time. It's in next year's budget. July 1, the money, $65,000 becomes available, $64,000, I think. If we need a little bit more, I'll come and tell you that's what we need. So that's kind of my position. Ask me questions. I'll tell you whatever I know about pickleball tonight.
Oh, Michael, do you want to go first? Or? Yeah, so Sally, thank you so much for this presentation. And we've talked a lot about this over the last couple of weeks, and I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of residents who are interested in the pickleball conversion. I do agree with the sentiment, particularly because the neighborhood that essentially we'd be looking at the conversion in is in my district. And I'm very familiar with the single family homes because I actually live in that neighborhood, and the families that live there. So I do think that I do agree and align with taking some more time to also talk to those residents to make sure that the noise that might be associated with the conversion of that outdoor court is something that makes sense for that particular facility. But then I also do think we have another opportunity, and I didn't have this realization until you mentioned it when we spoke the other day, where we do have an opportunity to really go after sponsorships from outside entities. From many of these courts and many of these types of facilities that are being established, there are different people that are sponsoring them. If you look at a great example from Steph Curry, he's doing a lot in the golf industry right now and sponsoring the building of different courses and different facilities and supporting teams that are going in that route. So there are a number of different people that I do think that we can start to lean on and also look at and have a more proactive approach to figure out if it is possible to have a certain type of facility there in Bowie where it doesn't leave the burden on the taxpayers and just us as a city government. So that's one thing. The second thing that I'm curious about, is it possible that we could reach out to Parks and Planning and just urge them to potentially maybe convert one of the things that they have and put that more so cost on them because they have a larger capacity than we do as a municipality?
So I sent them that email actually this weekend and asked them to tell me where is their next plan? Do they have a plan, and where would their closest to Bowie plan be to could either convert or build? And as I said, I have a meeting tomorrow morning to talk about that. It's a bigger agency than us. It probably takes them longer to pivot than it does us to pivot on things. But I am not shy, and I will certainly ask that question. And again, if they were to provide the lighted facility to us, perhaps we can provide some of the funding to actually resurface the court.
Right.
Public partnership here. Maybe they'll come and surprise me and say, yes, we can handle this. But I'm not going to offer them anything, obviously, till we come back and have a conversation, but I am exploring that option as well. I have not looked into outside funding. We certainly can see what's out there in the way of funding. I haven't seen a lot of that popping up, but we certainly can look into it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that and love that you're taking that particular approach with the county. I think because even if you look at Anne Arundel County, there are looks like 5 pickleball facilities dedicated to that right about now, and that's a county-wide initiative and a county-wide effort. So everything that we can do to voice and advocate for the fact that we want to see pickleball in Bowie for sure and in Prince George's County for sure, but since the county does own a lot of those facilities, putting that onus on them and seeing how that they can come to the table. And I wouldn't even honestly be opposed, I don't know about my council members, I'll speak for myself, I wouldn't be opposed to taking maybe half of the $65,000 and dedicating it to resurfacing and supporting a county conversion. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to the idea of that, so that way that particular court can stay an outdoor tennis court, because I think one thing that you did highlight is, when you take one amenity from another group, you have the other group that comes up and says, hey, well, what about me? And so I do think that it's an approach we want to be inclusive to all sports. Pickleball is definitely one that's on the rise and on the up and up, so definitely support it and definitely want to see more of it, because it is a particular sport that is just getting a lot of traction and doing a lot of great things for different people. But as much as we can urge the county to act there and maybe look at Parks and Recs as an avenue before we act, I do think that that would be in our best interest. So thank you for that.
I've also told them to look at Green Branch, to push the county on the Green Branch, which needs to be redesigned anyway because the design is so old. And then, of course, when we move forward with Racetrack, that's another logical place, because they're both going to be large plots where you wouldn't have to put this right up against somebody's house.
Just one follow-up for you, Sally. Have we looked into the fact, or have we looked into any potential federal grants that might be out there for recreation or this type of revitalization that, I don't know if Department of Transportation or some other areas are doing some things. Have we looked into any of that?
I honestly tell you, we have not started to look into any kind of grants to support this. There are also other properties we might have. Jericho Park, those of you that remember Jericho Park, there's a flat piece of property that's part of that the Boys and Girls Club years ago had said they were thinking about building another gymnasium there. Well, that piece of property is still there. I mean, it's a nice flat piece. There's already electricity up in that park. Glen Allen will not have electricity, so you're never going to light that. It's also, like I said, and then Jericho's kind of out in the country by itself. So, there's possibilities for other locations. It's just, we're just starting to think about this and look at this and look through the maps, spend a lot of time on Google Earth this week looking at where do we have pieces of property that might, suit doing this.
If my colleagues are okay, what I would propose on this item, and don't want to take away from your speaking opportunities, is that we give Sally an opportunity to possibly look at some other parcels of land and also have her meeting with the county and then report back to us, and then perhaps we take an action after that time. But I'll defer to my colleagues. Thank you, Sally.
No worries, Mr. Mayor. Sally, do we have any information on the relative popularity of tennis right now? So I know anecdotally that at least one HOA turned their tennis courts into grass, which I take as a sign of the popularity of tennis, at least in North Bowie. I don't believe I've ever seen the tennis courts at Glen Allen in use. So do we just have any information on who's actually using those tennis courts?
So we know that Glen Allen is used because people call us and complain when the nets aren't perfect or, something else happens. So we know they're getting used by tennis players. Do we see them there necessarily? Is tennis a dying sport? I don't know that it is. There's a lot of older people moving over to pickleball. It was my community that actually turned its tennis courts back into grass, but it wasn't because of a lack of tennis. It was because of the cost of maintaining the courts. So it was a burden on the HOA. But I don't have the answer to that one. Certainly that's another piece of research we can do. But just remember that we only do have that one pair that we have control over.
Yeah, I do like the idea of converting at least one of those courts fully to pickleball, just so we have one dedicated amenity. If we literally just need to talk to the 5 residents who live within earshot of that and just ask them, how do you feel about this? That might be the extent of the work we need to do. Knowing how these things go on, we end up with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of consultant reports that just get ignored. So it might literally just be easier for Nick or somebody to call those 5 residents and ask them what they think, since those are the ones who will be generating the majority of the complaints we have. And also just see if we can find any existing tennis community organizations that we know might be using our amenities and ask them what they think. Because a lot of the pickleball players who are pushing for this are also themselves tennis players and seem to have feet in both communities. So that's just a thought.
Well, we're not recommending that we delay this forever. We're just saying that we feel it's important to do a little more homework with the neighbors in that community, not just the 3, but others who might use the courts or might not use the courts, and certainly approaching it in a very positive way with them, that this is a growing sport, and maybe we'll find out that half the neighborhood plays pickleball, and they'll be delighted to have it. In the information I sent you, we also had come up with some ideas for ways to muffle the sound. There is actually material that we can put on the side fence of the court. There's additional plantings that we could do. So there are ways to consider doing that. We could stripe half the courts but not put the permanent nets in yet and have them use temporary nets for a while to see if there's complaints or not. But rather than to rush into it, I'm not sure that a couple of months will make a big difference to the pickleball players. They're not giving up their push for have us come up with some kind of a permanent arrangement. But I'd like to give you a better recommendation, and it's probably not going to be 2 weeks. It's going to be a little longer than that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start first with a comment. I want to highlight what you said earlier. It's not just for old people. And I say that it's very important for me to comment on that, because I was playing pickleball this weekend for the first time. My wife and I and my daughter, who is obviously significantly younger than I, and we had a grand time, but we were over at Fox Hill and we did make use of those courts. So I'm glad to hear that we have or they have what do you call them, the nets forthcoming. So that was I'm glad to hear about that. Couple questions. The tennis courts that we have, do you know if they're north-south facing or east-west?
I would be guessing to tell you that I think they're east-west, but I'm not sure.
All right, fair enough. Okay, thank you. I was hoping the other way around. The next question for you is on your research for pickleball. do those courts require typically the same level of fencing? Can we get away with like a 3-foot fence or something like that, or even a border that's, vegetation or something like that, instead of a full-on, giant kind of pen feeling?
It'll be easy to find out, but I'm not a pickleball player yet. And I just, I don't have the answer. Many of them are converted tennis courts, so
Sure.
they have the taller fences. Pickleball people don't want to chase the balls, for sure.
Yeah.
But the fencing in this situation is there, so that's not the
Yeah.
concern. Having the fencing will actually allow us to put a soundproof barrier on one wall, which they actually designed for this purpose.
Yeah, well, the one concern I have about the soundproofing on the fencing is it then obscures view, I believe, as well, right? Which then you end up with a cage with limited visibility, and it may, shall we say, become discomforting for people because there's reduced visibility and people may not feel as safe
Right.
in that sort of environment.
You're only going to do this, we would suggest probably doing it in stages, don't put it up at all, see what this noise situation is like, plant the trees, see what the noise situation is like, it's a phased-in kind of approach to doing it, if we need to do it at all.
Yes, and there may be some, where I was going with the more limited fencing and whatnot, there may be some more modest expenditures to doing it, as you mentioned, at some other flat space that we already have in play, and it may not be as big an expense. Not that I'm looking to spend a whole bunch of money unnecessarily, as you know I am certainly not wanting to do, but let's keep things open, and see what's happening. But it's a fun game, and I can see why there's a lot of interest in it. So thanks for keeping this thing moving.
Councilman, it sounds like you've been converted to a pickleball player.
It sounds like it. Yes. He's gonna form
Mayor
a
Pro
team.
Tem?
Hey, Sally, so when are you thinking timeline-wise we could bring this back up to the council? When do you think you'll have enough information from those residents and from the meeting with Parks and Rec to bring this back up?
It could be very short with Maryland National, but you're going to have to, I would tell you it's a month, maybe longer, before we can adequately do all the research to make sure we know what we're doing. Again, my experience talking with the pickleball club people, and nobody is really pushing us to have this done tomorrow. Even the gentleman that you spoke to, I've spoken to him. He and I are emailing back and forth on a regular basis. I gave him the same recommendations about the other two places, because this weekend he sent me a sketch of a park that was being developed down in Annapolis someplace, and I said, yes, but that's a brand-new facility. It's easy to design them into a brand-new facility. It's not quite so easy to convert something that's there. So, they want it to be done, but they also, I think, will tell us that it's spring and people are going to be moving outside to play now, and even though they don't think it's ideal to have what they call hybrid courts, the cross-striped courts, they're going to play on those courts anyway, as long as the weather's nice. And I appreciate, the dedication that some of them have, and they don't want us to forget this. They don't want us to think that they're happy with this, but I think they're also fine with, a little bit longer in getting their information together. And by the time we do the research and you would decide to reappropriate new funds this year to do it, we're probably going to be at the end of the fiscal year anyway. So, but it's your call, council, as to what you want to do, and whatever you direct us to do, obviously we will try to accommodate that wish.
Well, thanks, Sally. I'm fine with waiting at least until your meeting with Parks and Rec to find out how that goes, and then circling back after that. I'm totally fine with that, and I just want to make sure for the record, I'm not recommending not moving forward with this, and I'm not saying that I don't support pickleball. I just want to see if there are other options that we can leverage and utilize before we essentially commit to something that they're not even really truly asking for. Really what they're asking for is a dedicated facility. So I'd like to see if that's something that we can actually do and the feasibility in that before we actually commit to a workaround. So Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a very, very brief question, and it doesn't pertain to the sport itself, but my question involves perhaps location. And this question is for both Daniel and, the Assistant City Manager and our Community Services Director. Off of Governor Bridge Road, there's this large parcel or a lot that is cemented over, and some grass has grown through it. There's some trees over it. I don't know who owns it, if the city, the county, if it's private, whatever. That location back there, I just thought maybe perhaps we could look at that as a location, because it's pretty secluded. There are not a lot of homes immediately there. And maybe we could put up some sort of barrier for sound, and then the traffic, and maybe set up some parking. I don't know. Are you familiar with the parcel I'm speaking of, Sally?
You may be talking about Green Branch Park.
Yeah, well, is that Green Branch Park? I don't know what it is. It's just a
Maryland National owns that property.
It's just a flat. You guys familiar? Yeah, because it's over like going towards where you live, like in Longleaf, and it's off of Governor's Bridge Road. And you're driving there. If you're driving towards the community Longleaf, it's on your right-hand side. It's just it almost looks like it could have been an abandoned drive-in movie theater or something. Oh, so it's overflow for base?
We think it's park and planning property.
It's never used. I mean, it's never, ever used. There's grass growing through it. And I mean, if that's something, I mean, if it's BASOC, so it's park and planning, correct? I mean, if that's something that maybe, Sally, you could add in your conversation when you meet with them, because it's never used. And I will share this, which I've driven. Yes, it's a NIMBY. Okay, so, and whenever I'm driving back there, like at different nights, I guess, for lack of a better term, the young people may use it for like a lover's lane or whatever. So maybe if we put something else there to prevent anything from occurring unsavory. Okay. Yes, that's just what my thoughts were. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you so much, Sally. We appreciate all the insight. All righty. At this time, we will move to item E, discussion request for approval for naming the city's dog park in honor of Dennis Brady.
I'll take that.
Yeah, please go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will take that. Everyone, my colleagues here, both my two new colleagues to my left, they know that I'm always about recognizing the fine work that individuals have done and have contributed to our community as a whole. Both our neighbor and friend Connie Carter and our former mayor Gary Allen spoke tonight in support of this, the fine things that they said of Dennis Brady, I too have had the pleasure of working with Dennis, and it is my honest opinion that he is one of the finest people that I know. He's genuinely concerned and cares about Bowie and about individuals as a whole. He is by far someone that I have had many conversations with that were he's just of a pure nature. He's just a genuinely pure human being, not a bad bone in his body. He's always just been a very kind and polite individual. And he does have a love for the four-legged constituent. I can tell you this, there was a friend of mine that was a former council member, and God bless her soul, Gail Booker Jones. I met Dennis Brady and his wife Kathy through Gail Booker Jones, and she loved the two of them immensely. And I think it would be more than fitting to name this park after him. As everyone knows, he did spearhead its creation, and both he and his wife have a number of dogs that they have raised and rescued and over the past years. And I just want to say that, I really did, it's no secret that I did support Brady for coming back as an at-large council member. But this is a sweet ending, to his very fine, illustrious career. And as a Bowie City Council member, 20 years, in fact. And he did a number of great things. I just wanted to say one thing, because there's a member of the audience who shares a relationship with my former friend, Gail Booker Jones. And Gail was going through physical therapy from open heart surgery at Washington Hospital Center. And Dennis's wife, Kathy, she's a physical therapist there. And Gail was going through rehabilitation. She knew no one there. She was completely out of it, just the stress and dealing with the health issues that she was having, and then just some family issues. She had a lot on her at that time in her final days. She told me that she looked up something, just a feeling came over, and she looked up, and her eyes met Dennis Brady's eyes and Kathy's there at Washington Hospital Center. And she said that it was as though she saw an angel, someone that she needed to just get a hug from at that moment. And just the goodness that Kathy Brady and Dennis Brady, just good people, good people. So, I could go on and on and on. We heard some really fine things about my friend Dennis Brady this evening, and I am very hopeful that my colleagues, as well as our new colleagues, would support us and support me in joining and renaming and rededicating our one and only Bowie Dog Park that is there because of being spearheaded by Dennis Brady. We named that after Dennis Brady, and maybe the Dennis Brady Park for Dogs, and we even moved to a rededication and having him and his family come out and honoring him with that. And I would very much love to see that happen. I think there's no one that would be more deserving, having given 20 years of his life to service in our community. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I got a couple things. One, I appreciate Councilmember Gardner bringing this up. I never actually had the pleasure of serving with Dennis. He left just as I was coming on, and he made me promise to be at least as annoying as he was, which of course was impossible. But he really spearheaded the dog park effort. In fact, he spearheaded most of the pro-animal and most of the kind of environmental community causes we've had in the city. A lot of the planning staff and a great deal of Sally Hines' work is courtesy to many of the initiatives that Councilmember Brady spearheaded. I think this is a perfectly appropriate honor. I do want to take the opportunity to just raise a couple of issues that are related to the dog park. We do get a lot of feedback from the city's huge dog-owning population that it might be time to look at the park itself and making certain improvements that are kind of consistent with dog parks and dog-related amenities in other areas. I'll talk with staff offline about that, but I just wanted to raise that. That's something I'm going to follow up on. I don't think it's going to be anything that's going to break the bank, but from our residents, we're getting pretty consistent feedback across the board that I think it's worth taking a look at. Otherwise, I think the name change is a great idea, and I appreciate my colleague bringing this up.
Thank you, Councilmember and staff, and I thank you for those comments. You're absolutely right. We do need to make some upgrades to the dog park. Thank you. Charlie would enjoy it.
No, I just briefly, since it is getting a little late, echo the comments previously made and the commitment that he's had over the years. I think it's a worthy recognition, and I do think that to the point you made, Councilman Stev, I think more than anything, there were some changes just recently made to the park. I think installing some new material and whatnot, and hopefully that addresses some of the issues. But we certainly need to ensure that we keep on maintaining it in the best order possible. So thanks to the staff, thank you, Sally, thanks to all the people. I know even this evening I received another inquiry from a constituent about four-legged neighbors and the like. There are an abundance of them in the community, and it's important to have the amenities to support. So thank you.
I think I'll just say as discussed. I think, considering the amount of effort he put into, particularly for our animals and all, I would just ask city staff to see what it would take to get that done. And if you could take that as a item to get back to us. And
Certainly, there would be a little cost in regards to getting a sign, and I think I heard we want to have a little dedication ceremony associated with it. Why don't we do a little research in regards to what the cost may be, and we'll bring it back to you all for your
yeah, just bring it
consideration.
back. I think it's a worthy cause.
Could you make the sign in-house?
Do
Could
the-
you make the signage in-house?
We could probably, but we might do something a little more professional looking than that. We're not going to break the bank, I'm sure.
Okay, we want to do it right. We want to make it right.
So you want to do it right. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you to each of my colleagues. I really thank you all for supporting this.
Thanks Dennis Brady for his commitment to the city. All right. I think that's.
Do I ask for a motion on that?
I think they're just going to go ahead and get that and get it back to us.
Do I need a motion of?
We have consensus. We'll bring this back to you with what the plan is, and
Okay.
we'll get consensus at that point.
Thank you, City Manager. Thank you.
If we need
Thank
to,
you,
we
Mr.
could
Mayor.
put on. No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments before we? Michael, that was quick. Go ahead.
Just for the good of the order, I just want to say big congratulations to my new colleagues. On the far end of the dais, we'll do our best to send some snacks your way as we can. As I told you both, it's too late to back out now. But, you know, I've been here for 8 years now, and there are days when I've banged my head against a brick wall wondering why I ever did it. But those days were few and far between compared to the number of days that this job really gave me a sense of joy and fulfillment and purpose, serving my neighbors, serving my friends in the city I've lived in my whole life and love. And I hope that it brings you the same joy that I've shared as well.
Everything he said. Everything he said.
Okay. Again, welcome. We've got a lot of work to do to move the city forward and to support our constituent. But thank you for being willing to put yourself out and go through this. Having said that, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye. Opposed, same favor. Motion carries. Hey, I'd like to say thank you to everyone, to staff, to you and your families for being here, and again to the citizens for their support and all that we try to do for the city. Sally Hine, thank you again, if I hadn't said it, for what you do as well.
Thank you.
And everyone, thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.